year running for Quest. Before we start the proceedings, I would like to just pay a small tribute to one of the greatest human beings and innovators who is no more with us, APJ Abdul Kalam, our own missile man. I think in last 1 decade, there are a lot of things that changed our lives for better. Internet and mobile are two such great examples. I think the improvement of quality of life, that journey is going to continue, and innovation is going to play much bigger role than it has played so far. We'll see a lot of things in Internet of Things. We'll see anti-terrorism related advancements. We'll see a lot of innovations in energy, renewable energy, or new sources of energy. We'll also see innovations that will transform social inequality. I'm really hoping for that. At ZS, I believe ZS is uniquely positioned to bring some meaningful innovations in coming year in the field of sales and marketing. I really believe that. And what better event to really bring the two core values of our culture, that is collaboration and innovation, together than an event like Quest. So when we first conceived innovation challenge on the lines of hackathon, we thought this is perfect for ZS. And any innovation that is relevant to business brings exponential impact to the society and to our clients and to us. So that is our central theme, and that is why we thought Quest is the right representation of two of the biggest values that we live on a daily basis. So without much further ado, I would like to invite some of our senior leaders and our guests today from other offices to light the diya and inaugurate this event. So let me call Paul Darling, our principal, Rohan, Arvind, Manish, and Chetan. Can you please do the honors?
Pawan.
Great. Rohan, please don't go away. Let me invite Rohan to guide us on how he wants us to move ahead with Quest.
So, who likes sleep? Not going to have much of that in the next 30 hours. Who's excited? Yeah, me too. So Abhijit was supposed to do this, and I got a call from about half an hour ago saying he's unwell. So I scribbled some notes on a piece of paper. I hope to do justice to whatever he was going to say. And of course, we hope he gets better soon. You know, Ashutosh was up here and was, telling us a little bit about Quest and so on. I thought I'd tell you the story about how this whole thing started. And it was June of last year, and we were in a meeting, typical ZS meeting, very long, no windows, lots of people talking. And then Ashutosh says, "Hey guys, can I have 5 minutes? I have this good idea." And we thought, yeah, you know, there's always a place for a good idea. So then he starts talking about hackathon and this and that, and we thought, and then there's literally 12 people in the room, and his point is, you know, we talk a lot about innovation and so on. This is something that we can do. And all of us, all 12 of us said, literally after 5 minutes, we said, "Ashutosh, what a fantastic idea. Let's do this. You organize it." That's a typical ZS tradition, which is whoever brings the idea then suddenly gets the, oh, you organize it. But you know what? So that was June. When did we do it? Was it September?
Yeah.
So literally in September of last year, within 3 months, we had organized this thing. We'd got an events firm. We had 200 people in Pune, 200 people in New Delhi, and we just did it. And when I looked at that, I thought, wow, I'm glad that we're still working in a company, even though we're 4,000 people, that within 2 months, some person says, "Hey, this is a good idea." A bunch of other people say, "This is a good idea," and then we just get it done. Right? I would not like to be working in a company where, you know, there's some committee and, I don't know, 15 months later, we're like, of course, we are 15 months later, but this is number 2 version. Anyway. So, Ashutosh, thank you. Thank you very much. I think you really done a brilliant job. So, one of the reasons we thought it was a good idea was that, you know, we're constantly thinking about how to make sure that we here in India are moving ourselves forward. And I think you know that I just sent out an email, obviously saying that I personally will be moving on. So you know, sadness and tears. And thank you, by the way, for many of you who sent me kind notes. But I think I've witnessed over the last 3 to 4 years a very substantial change in how we in India are viewed in the company. Okay, and so. It was very, very important to me and to us all that we are not viewed as a back office function, that we're not, right? That we are front and center of what we do as a company. And I very much believe that we are front and center of what we do as a company. Not just in doing all the work, okay, which we do, but also in driving new thinking. Right, in driving how we work with our clients. And when I go to the U.S. and so on, I participate in some of our management meetings. I often say that when we think about big clients, we really should think about how we're deploying large skills in India to make sure that we have those clients. Every single one of our largest clients, we're very proud of our largest clients. They have 100+ teams right here, right? So we're very front and center of the company. Now, as a company, I think many of you know, we're not the bog standard, that's a British term, bog standard. What that means is, we're not the bottom of the barrel services company, okay? When a client hires us, more often than not, they're saying to themselves, this is a higher price than anybody else. Can I justify going with this company that I know will provide me something extra? Can I justify that? Right? That is the position we're in. We're at the top of the heap, not right. And in order for us to stay at the top of the heap, we need to have the next best thing. Right? You can't be at the top of the heap and do the same thing that Joe next door is doing at a lower price, right? You're never going to survive. You have to be and bring that next best thing. And so that's why we thought Quest was an amazing idea, because we often think and talk about innovation and how to do it and so on. Here was a really neat way to have fun and actually drive some innovation. And in so doing, make sure that all of us here in India are also front and center of driving that innovation, which is also an important part of this. Okay? So for all those reasons, I'm so happy to be here at number 2 version. Okay, we're going to do this every year, and sort of declare it open. With all that said, and I don't want to talk about sort of big stuff all the time. Most of Quest and most of the next 30 hours is all about you. All right, it's all about you having fun. It's all about you working on things which are hopefully interesting, and making sure that you are driving some good thinking forward and working with your colleagues in this environment, right? And I witnessed it last. Who was here last year, by the way? Okay. All right, so maybe less than 10%. Good. So I hope that's not a reflection of people not wanting. The retention rate on this is low. But anyway, during this time, there will be a lot of other things too. It's not just put your head down. There's dancing, there's lots of pizza, at least there was last year. There was too much cake, I think, last year. So anyway, Quest is all about you. It's all about having fun and so on, not sleeping too much, but making sure that you are also finding that extra gear. This year, I think we, I don't know, are there folks from London here? I heard there are people. Okay, great. Can you stand up? All right, brilliant. Can you do a dance? Brilliant. So we have some guests in from London, and they'll be joining us. And will you be working on the teams as well? Okay, perfect. So you'll be working on teams. The only other thing, last thing I have to do is welcome a colleague and a good friend of mine, Paul. Paul and I got given this extraordinary note just before, which talks about how amazing Paul is, and I didn't actually recognize it. So it's a broad array of sales and marketing and industry conferences and so on. But anyway, I have a new respect for him. Paul, actually amazing stuff, right? So prior to joining ZS, he was a fellow at the University of Pennsylvania School of Medicine, holds a PhD, how many of us can say that, in molecular biophysics. Anyway, Paul and I, we actually go back a long way. When I was a consultant and a manager, that did happen, Paul was a consultant with me on my first project. And I recruited him to this project with lots of promises about interesting work, none of which I think came through, but big promises. So anyway, Paul is very famous at the moment in ZS, okay, among our company and in our partner group. And one of the things that he's driving forward is something very strategic for us. And that is understanding how the U.S. healthcare system is evolving. And I think many of you know, or if you don't, probably should, that there is a very big change happening in the way healthcare is managed and delivered in the United States. Now, when you think about it as a company, over 90% of our work is related to healthcare in the United States. So it affects all of our clients. By extension, it will affect what we do over the next 10 years and the kinds of things we do. And so what we said to ourselves is, you know, we can't let this change happen to us. If we do that, we'll be made redundant. So we need to get ahead of this change, and we need to help our clients shape it. So we asked Paul to lead the charge and to say, you know, really there's so many things going on, bring some sense to this and help us understand as a company what are we going to do? And he's done a phenomenal job, an absolutely phenomenal job at this. So anyway, I'm so happy to introduce Paul Darling as our guest speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rohan. Before I even begin to speak, I'd like to say thank you very much for letting me come here. I'm absolutely humbled and honored to be able to speak with all of you. And for the last 2 days having been here, I'm incredibly impressed by everything I've seen, from the way you work together to the energy, to how well this giant machine runs. So congratulations to all of you. And then backing up a couple of steps, yeah, Rohan did offer me some very big promises, and none of them came true. So when he walks in your office with an opportunity, look at him twice. Be careful. So what I'd like to talk to you about is a journey that I've taken, and how that journey applies to what you'll be embarking on over the next 24 hours. Are we on here? This way? That way, okay. And I wanted to talk about 4 main topics. I have about 5 total slides on this, and I'll tell a few stories along the way. There's motivation, creation, or ideation, which is what you'll be doing a lot of today, participation, and then finally celebration. And I've tried to form my talk in the concept of just frameworks, since we're a consulting firm. And it starts out like this. A lot of the work I've been doing for what is the future of US healthcare involves complex future thinking, scenario planning. And just by show of hands, who here has done scenario planning or heard of scenario planning? A few of you. This is the concept where you take a look into the future and you identify what are the main drivers of change. What will the future possibly be? And the goal of this exercise, this very large exercise, is to create what's called future memory. You've worked out possible futures, multiple scenarios for what the future can be. You've identified those futures and thought through them in a lot of detail. And by doing so, you've actually put yourself into that future and thought, how would I act? How would I perform in that future? And what you gain is that future memory. You know how you would respond when that future takes place. And I think that's analogous to what you'll be doing today. All of you will be solving difficult problems, cutting-edge problems, for who ZS is now and where we want to be in the future. And so you will be doing small bits of scenario planning, but rather than just thinking about the future, all of you are actually putting yourselves into action to try to solve the problems of the future. So rather than just scenario planning, you're actually doing what I like to call mini trials. And those mini trials were made famous by a guy named B.J. Fogg in the Bay Area. B.J. Fogg is a guy down at Stanford University who has what's called the Behavior Design Lab. And he has his famous thing that he does in the Behavior Design Lab is to design mini trials, or crummy trials as they're called, where he says, don't think too hard about it, just define a few parameters and start to solve that problem. And the key thing that I want you to think about as you're solving that problem is not what's the answer, but what are all the little things we learn along the way? Where something doesn't work, why doesn't it work? Why is that valuable? And it's part of what we call failing forward. Try it, try very hard, and once it doesn't work, you have a big learning, you back up 2 steps, and you try something else. And that's a process you'll be going through many times over the next 24 hours. So that scenario thing looks kind of like this. A disciplined and powerful tool to anticipate changes in a complex environment. That's the environment in which we consult. And then looking at the driving forces and looking at a diversity of perspectives. And all of you bring that diversity of perspectives to this problem. So the typical team size will be what? Ranging from 3 to 5, 6 or 7? What size? 8 to 10. 3 to 5? So that's perfect. So you have 3 to 5 people, you have a diversity of perspectives, and you're trying to think, well, how will this work? And from that diversity of perspectives, you're going to identify multiple paths of change. And then from that, you come up with alternative ways of thinking about the future. And these are the solutions developed. You might choose one path, try it out, and it won't work. And what do you do then? Go on to the second path, right? So all of the things I've been doing in trying to think about the future of US healthcare is something all of you are going to be doing over the next 24 hours. You're going to be doing scenario planning, but more than that, you'll be actually creating the scenarios with your thoughts, with your discussions, and with your teamwork. That then made me think about the following. Does anyone recognize what this is? It's called the 9-dot puzzle. Are you aware? It's a puzzle where you have to connect all 9 dots without lifting the pen off the page and using how many? 4 lines or fewer. Has everyone ever solved this puzzle? Sure, plenty of people have. It's pretty straightforward, right? Do you know what this puzzle made famous? The phrase, thinking outside the box. They're linked together. And the idea is that the solution to connecting these 9 dots requires you to actually draw lines that go outside the box. And so that actually made me think about some of the things you're doing today. How will you take the problems that you have and actually put away a lot of the knowledge you have of ZS to step outside yourselves and bring new solutions back in? So I wanted to encourage you to have ideas and bring ideas to the table from things you've read, from things you participated in through gaming, through articles, through anything you do outside of ZS, and bring that to bear. Every idea is a good idea. Are you familiar with the idea of yes and? So if anyone brings an idea to the table, you immediately respond with yes, and here's something else. You build on that idea. Every idea is a good idea. And of course, on this puzzle, there's multiple ways to solve it, right? And what that tells me is that you may have one idea that's really good, but don't run away because there might be another idea right behind that's also equally valuable. So again, I'm trying to encourage you to have this very collaborative idea creation, brainstorming mindset. That brings another idea to bear. Have you heard of Ed DeBono? In the mid-'80s, Ed DeBono came up with this idea of lateral thinking. And it's the midpoint between vertical thinking, which is your typical problem solving, logical step after logical step after logical step, where you build on those steps and you come to an answer. That's vertical thinking. And then horizontal thinking, which is many, many imaginative ideas without a lot of depth. Ed DeBono said the middle point of that is actually lateral thinking. It's where you do 1 or 2 creative steps to move from an idea over to the right of an idea, and then do a little bit of vertical thinking, and then you move over a couple of ideas, and then you do a little vertical thinking. And I wanted to give you a quick explanation as to how this works. So you see these 6 hats, right? So what Ed DeBono said was, he said there are basically 6 types of thought that can help you analyze a problem. At any given moment in a typical meeting, you might have some combination of any 6 of these. A little bit of red, a little bit of black, a little bit of blue, and so on. However, a really fun facilitation technique is if you get everyone in the room to put on just one colored hat. So everyone wears the white hat at the same time, and they think about the problem together. And so what that does is it creates parallel thinking through one lens. And the idea is that all 6 of these lenses then comprise a full set of lenses by which you might analyze a problem. And I'll take you through these in the hopes that it's something that sparks an idea, so that when you're in the rooms and you're doing your work and it's late at night and you're running out of ideas, you might say, can we put on our red hat right now? Let's all put on our red hat, let's do some lateral moves, think about the problem again and see if we can vertically move up, and then put on maybe a black hat and do a lateral move and then vertically move up. And so it looks like this. That white hat. The white hat is the information hat. And that says, what are the facts? What other information would we like? You can only ask information-based questions. What's information? What other information? And you just list out all the information. The next hat, the yellow hat, is the harmony hat. And you ask yourself, what are the good points here? How will this help us? What are the benefits of the problem we're trying to solve? So we're not asking more information, we're just talking about what the benefits are. The next one is the emotional hat. How do I feel right now? What are my emotions about the problem? And the reason that's valid is you tap into a different part of yourself, a different thinking, the emotional self, which is a nice way to move out of a logical set and move laterally to a new position so you can start thinking vertically again. These are ways to get unstuck. The next one is the judgment hat. This is the critical hat. And so it's a good habit to say, I'm going to put on my black hat now, and I'm going to ask questions like, is this true? Will this actually work? And as long as we all agree we're wearing that black hat, it's good to critically evaluate the steps we're taking. And then beyond that, the management hat. Let's revisit why we're here. What's our goal, and what have we done so far? This can be things around timeline, this can be things around our long-term objective. And then finally, the provocation hat. What are other ways to solve this problem? Does it kind of make sense how these hats will take you out of a current mode of thinking, allow you to make a big jump sideways and then start doing more vertical thinking? My hope was that this would give you a different way of solving that problem. This is actually an exercise that we use when we're thinking about the future of US healthcare. We think, we have a solution right now, but will it really work? Is this going to solve the problem? And somebody else might step back and say, what information do we need? What information do we have? What information are we missing? And so it's a really nice way to get everyone thinking on the same line and jump out of a particular space into a new space. I hope it's something you can use over the next 24 hours. The next thing I was thinking about is that you're in these new teams, these teams of 3 to 5, and there's sort of a nice model for how teams form. And I wanted to share that with you to give you a sense of what you're about to feel as you take this next journey. And this is Tuckman's model of team performance. And moving from the left to right, you have the forming of the team, the storming of the team, the norming, performing, and then finally the adjourning of the team. And the forming of the team is where everyone comes together, they get to know one another, you do things like icebreakers, you start to relax, you start to let down your guard. Once that guard starts to reduce, you actually have the storming phase. And it's consciously named storming because that's when you're doing brainstorming, you're thinking of new ideas. So you relax, the guard drops, and you're in the brainstorming phase. Once you've brainstormed and you have ideas on the table, you get into that norming phase. That's where you're actually trying out those ideas. And you can imagine that you iterate between these two phases. And the reason I bring this up is because it's nice to know where the group is along this journey so you can get a sense for how to contribute most effectively. And then beyond the norming, once you've tried out some ideas and they seem like they're working, then you get into production mode. And that's the norming phase. And you can imagine then regressing from that, trying out this iterative cycle right here, and then building it back up again. And I bet as you go on this journey for the next 24 hours, you'll be moving back and forth in these 3 phases as a team until finally, when you come to a conclusion or the time's up, you get into the adjourning phase. And the key thing about the adjourning phase is the next thing I wanted to talk about, which is recognition. When you get to the end, you're going to want to celebrate. And the one thing that I wanted to share with you about celebration is, as you're going on this 24-hour path, try for each one of your team members to take one specific thing that they did, and at the end, share with them what it was and why it was good. Make it personal, and share that back with your team. That's one of the best ways to close out this fantastic journey that you're taking. We do this on a regular basis when we're thinking about the future of US healthcare. We haven't solved the problem by any stretch thus far, but we have to find milestones, and we stop and we say, along the way, what's something good that Katie did or that Lizzie did? And we find that it's a way to bring the team together and move it to a higher level performance. I wanted to share with you these tricks, these frameworks, because they're things that I've been using for the last 1.5 years, or actually over the course of my career at CS, and things I found very, very effective. And I know that these slides will be made available, so if at any point you're thinking, how can we move our game forward during these 24 hours? You can take a look at those Ed DeBono colored hats. You can take a look at that Tuckman cycle for team performance, and you can think, where are we right now, and how do we move it to that next level? And that's all I wanted to talk about, was really give all of you something that you can use as you take this journey and you think about it. And I think Ashutosh said I should try to answer some questions at the end if there's any questions on this. So I'll stop there and I'll take questions if there are. If not, I'll give it back to Ashutosh. Please.
Is there any particular order that you found those productions where you're using hats? Like not inserting this at the beginning or...
The question was, is there an order of using the hats for Ed DeBono's colored hat? Not necessarily any order that's required. The key thing is everyone knows that you're wearing one hat at the same time. So if everyone knows you're in the critical mode, everyone's in the critical mode, and there's no judgment applied. Yeah. Great. I know it's a little early for all of you. I think this is fantastic. Again, I'm incredibly impressed by what you're about to do. and I'm really excited to see some of the results. And I'll be walking around today visiting the teams, and I'll definitely be stopping in and asking you where in that Tuckman journey you are. And I might even ask you to put on one of the colored hats and try thinking about some of the problems you're solving. I hope that's okay, but I'll be stopping in to see all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you both, Paul and Rohan, to give us the guidance. And I think some of the tips that Paul shared are spot on. I really like them. Thank you, Paul. So, may I call Rohan to give a token of appreciation to Paul from all of us.
Paul, thank you so much for coming over. It was really great to have him here, and he's come a long way. He's come all the way from San Francisco. Thanks so much, Paul. Thank you from all of us.
I think we are done here, right? So, I also assumed the MC had just 5 minutes before we all started, because unfortunately Vijit took ill and I wasn't prepared, so I was not aware really when we are going to stop. So I think this is the end of our opening ceremony here. We all will start going to the hackathon zone, the hacking zone, one by one, team by team. So I think Raymond is going to announce the team names, and you all will move to the hacking zone right now.
Guys, just be seated for a minute. Just 1 minute.
I'm sorry about this. We'll get upstairs shortly. I'm told I was slightly negligent in because there are an additional set of guests who will be joining us at Quest, and these are students whom, as I understand it, we've made offers to. Have they accepted? Yeah, we've made offers to from Triple IIT Delhi. Please stand up and we'll give you a hand.